you say when you have an assembly of heroes? You say, Avengers, assemble.
Avengers assemble!
A word from Captain America!
Welcome to the Tao Talk podcast. My name is Denise, and I am here with Neil. We have kind of a fun episode coming up for you. As you know from watching our podcast and previous episodes, last week, Neil and I attended it was both a meeting and a rally with regard to the ICE facility, the incoming ICE facility in Chester, New York. And there was a rally outside where we had several hundred people that were chanting and singing, and there was one person who was dressed as Captain America, and he gave a speech. He was very entertained. I have put out a short video that's been getting a lot of attention, and Cap is here today. So let me get him on here. Hey, Captain America is here. Look at
Howdy,
that.
folks.
Welcome. Man, I feel honored. So welcome to the Tao Talk podcast. So my God, you're completely in costume. This is amazing. You're like the real deal. So
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
So give us a little bit of your background, and for our audience here, I'm sure they're very interested in
Certainly.
learning more.
So the rally in Chester was not a one-off, and it wasn't just to combat the cold, to layer up in this monkey suit. I wear this every Saturday. I've become the regular cheerleader at the weekly demonstration in Nanuet at the Four Corners, which, I mean, we're juggling with a lot of issues that we got to speak out against, but they all come down to pretty much anti-Trump regime.
Yes.
Where
it
is
all trickles
Nanuet
down from
for our audience? We have our audience is all over, so kind of give us as to where Nanuet is in comparison to where we are in Orange County.
Right, Nanuet. We're in Rockland County on Route 59. We stage at the Four Corners, which is the intersection of Route 59 and Middletown Road. It's, I believe, the busiest traffic intersection in the county.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of visibility, and that's been the designated public protest spot since the Vietnam War. I've been going out there since April. I started going out just in kind of black, neutral colors. I was a late bloomer. I'd never protested. I just, came from a place of privilege and naivete, so I was waiting for other people to fix things.
What made you want to protest now?
It just got to be time to step up, of feeling so isolated and, uncertain, as we all did in those days. I use that past tense liberally.
It does feel like eons ago, but it's only been 8 months since April.
Yeah. And it
I'm
helps
just curious
me get
if
in
it was
character.
if there was an event or there was something that had occurred that he read in the news. I mean, usually it's to activate somebody to want to do this sort of thing, right? Go out to protest, to want, usually it has to hit you somewhere inside, right? Like there has to be some type of, trauma inside that you're like, it invokes in you. And, I'm kind of curious as to what that may have been.
It reached a boiling point of desperation, of having gotten through that first Trump term, which stalled my personal life. It kept me, the whole COVID mismanagement kept me locked down in an apartment for 3 extra years when my partner and I wanted to buy a house. Then we got into that house, which was a battle in and of itself, and found ourselves in a neighborhood with a lot of Trump signs, somebody throwing a Trump-themed barbecue right around the corner the week we moved in. And I just remember my partner weeping at the sight of that, of like, wow, it's, we're like in the lion's den. It feels like we're surrounded by wolves. And having gone through one term, it's just like, I can't do this again. I can't handle it the same way. And I'm tired of just coping. I got to find something else to do. So it was the hands-off march. That was the first big one. I was going to go to one in Manhattan in Bryant Park because it was just time to like get out there and do the work. And then when I saw that there were other local movements and that there was going to be one in Nanuet, which I perceived as a very red town, Rockland, a red county, and I
Yes.
found out pleasantly that it's much more purple than people would have you believe. And I was deeply moved to not be alone or just part of a scattered handful of people out there. And this was my original idea, to just have a striking image and show people what side Captain America would stand for. And I was worried about attracting attention. I didn't know what kind of resistance there would be, any counter protesters, and I'm just wearing a literal target on my chest and carrying a target as a shield. So I followed the advice of like wear a mask, worry, like don't bring your smartphone, dress in like black grays, and I did that a couple weeks in a row, and it felt safe, peaceful, no counter protesters, resounding support from the passing motorists, way more people shoulder to shoulder with me out there than I expected. And I found, after 10 years of living in this county, the first sense of community that I've had. All my friends live like an hour
beautiful.
in different direction. It's been profoundly healing and therapeutic, excuse me. And
we know that feeling.
yeah, and it has been profoundly therapeutic, and that's what I want to get out there to other people that feel trapped, that don't know what to do, that don't know how to make a first move, is to begin imperfectly. I think of it the way that I approach exercise, that I've been taught to approach exercise, of how can I make this impossible to fail? Start so small, and then see what else you think you can realistically take on to add to that and make it a little more challenging. So the first time that I decided to risk it and go out in full regalia, one person thought I was a counter-protester, because unfortunately you associate these colors with the other side. One person thought I was a statue. Two people mentioned they thought I was a statue just out there. Which, it sounds silly, but considering that there's a security store right down the road that has statues of Batman and Superman and all other animals and dinosaurs, I guess I thought, all right, yeah, I guess this guy's relocating to the Shake Shack.
That's great.
And they had a marshal there with a megaphone who was chanting, and, I've got my father's booming voice and acoustics, and they heard me, and the marshal just passed the megaphone over and said, you should be doing this. Whereas I was expecting the organizers to say, hey, really eye-catching appearances aren't the safest thing to do, and they're like, no, man, get up there. And
you do have the voice. I gotta say, you got the
you.
voice. But go ahead, Neil.
I want to ask, because he brought up 2 points that
Yeah.
I think are really important, and I really wanted to, because I really want the public to hear from somebody other than us about this, and I really think that he brought up 2 really good points. The first point being the mental health issues related to what is happening around us. A lot of people fear, right? And it's a fear of being vocal, speaking out. What can I do? Right. I mean, it's an overwhelming feeling of just like I call it sort of this like, MAGA, just overwhelming you, right? In terms of where do you go? What do you do? And I would like to hear more about how he said, okay, I started off small and I went big. What could other people do who are suffering from those type of feelings, those same type of feelings, right? To get themselves involved, right? Not everybody can dress up in a Captain America suit, right?
No.
Like, so it's the idea of what can they do? And the other point I want to bring up, which I think is important, that he sort of alluded to, and I think kind of dovetails into this, is, me and you have been very vocal, Denise, as to
Yes.
our opinions. We started this podcast. We've been vocal on social media. We've been using our real identities, in terms of that. And we have family members, or at least I have family members, I'm sure Denise does too, who say, don't say that. Don't do those things. You could get in trouble. You're going to end up in a concentration camp, right? Like, there's this fear now around free speech, right? Like, we've always been a country of you can say whatever you want, whenever you want, right? Like, the whole point of being an American, right, is you stand on a platform and scream at the top of your lungs your opinion, right? And somebody standing next to you could scream their opinion, which could be directly opposite your opinion, right? But that's America, right? That's what America was meant to be. And now we've devolved into this nobody's allowed to talk about politics, even though everything is political, right? Like, everything is political, but you can't talk about, like, so now we've been put into this box. And I'm curious, other people who feel this, right? What can they do? What did you do? And what advice can you give others to do the same thing?
Oh, I could speak very much to that. So let me tell you kind of what my situation at home was getting into this house, this neighborhood where there were plenty of Trump 2020 signs. This was in 2023, which tells you plenty.
Like,
and there are
that isn't
certain houses,
deranged?
and there are certain houses that have had their Trump merch up since we moved in. Others, the signs went up in the election season. When I put my Harris Walls signs out on my lawn, one day in the middle of a Monday, while I was working from home, I went out to see that they had been replaced with Trump or Bust signs. So
Wow, right
somebody
off your
came onto my
lawn.
land,
On
took
your
both
land,
of my
yeah.
blue signs, put two of their red signs up, and walked away. And I'm fairly certain I know who it is, too. And I called the cops just like a show of, like, I'm not just going to do nothing. And just told the officer, I'm like, hey, I don't want, I'm not looking to get my signs back or anything. I know that's a lost cause, and I have more anyway. But I said, just want to let you know that somebody's creeping around other people's property. And the cop explained to me that he says, oh, Barry's Jewelry on Route 304 in New City? I'm like, yeah, everyone knows Barry's because he's had his Trump signs up all along the grass in front of his retail building. And the cop says he has been giving Trump signs out for free. So anyone that wants them has just been coming into his jewelry store, not for jewelry, and getting those signs. So, and the signs are still out there. So for those listening at home, Barry's Jewelry on Route 304. He's got plenty of free signs to take right off the grass. All you got to do is paint over them, and you can write whatever you want and bring them out there to stand with Captain America.
There you go.
So yeah,
That's-
so I replaced my signs, and then on Halloween, signs got taken again. That one I'm willing to chalk up to kids. And then, a week later, those campaign signs were moot. But
Yeah.
I would put those signs out. I would fly the pride flag. I have an American flag with the rainbow stripes that I would hang upside down in the international sign of distress. And I would have a few neighbors come up to me and say, hey, so about your signs or about your flag. And I go, oh, here we go. They say, it brings me a lot of hope to see that because you see all the other signs. So that's when I knew that there is a quiet presence of the people that are afraid to speak. And so, yes, go ahead.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. Finish your thought, and then I have something I want to add to that.
So that's the story. I want to speak to it's that fear is deliberate. It is a tenet of fascism of making people feel afraid to speak out because they feel that they are in the minority because their party is not in power. And that illusion crumbled the first time I went out at the Four Corners in Nanuet. And hearing not only, seeing how many people were out there with me, but how many of the motorists slowed down to honk and to raise their fist in solidarity, to give thumbs up. Every week we have a handful of detractors, and it's usually the same guys. One guy will always roll down his window, hold his little red hat out to show us. And they'll yell like it's a sports team, like Trump's number one, Trump won, you all are losers. Because
Yeah,
they're focused on the fact that the guy they're rooting for won, and forget the fact that they lost along with the rest of the American people. Or saying that we
great
don't have a
point.
life being out here. And I'm like, and I say, I know that you make time to do this every week, but you're not standing across the street in the 80-degree weather or in the snow like yesterday. You're just driving by and hurling out insults because you have no conviction. So
So-
I'd say find a local movement to the people that don't want to feel afraid, and it will help recharge your battery. There's lots of criticism for the like the No Kings protests, saying like, oh, they're convenient, they're legal, they're organized with the town, they're not disruptive. No, they're not. I get that. I hear that, and I agree that they're not enough, that there have been more dramatic protests that are more effective, but this is a starting point for we've never come this close to the brink. So people that haven't gotten involved, like I hadn't, now feel the need to do something other than just coping, other than just hunkering down. And it's a public forum. Get out there and talk to people, especially the people that you see there every week, and you get good ideas. Find, establish meeting places outside of this, and then get involved in the community. Something I started back around back to school time. I saw the local food pantry was calling for school supplies. So as we're wrapping up our march, I yell into the bullhorn. I said, "Hey, folks, I'm going to do a little extra credit, and I'm going to walk over to that Five Below there, and I'm going to buy as many school supplies as the cash in my wallet will allow, and then I'm going to take them to people in Nanuet." And I said,
wow, that's
if
great.
anyone wants to come with me, I'd love the company. If not, don't worry about it. I know I'm springing it on you. Well, one friend brought his mother and his wife and his 2-year-old son, and I think I only had like $60 on me, but I said, whatever I have, that's what I'm doing. He and his mother spent $150 on supplies. So I said, right
That's
there,
wonderful.
that's 4 times as many school supplies as if I had gone by myself. And I tried it out again. There was a coat drive and toy drive in the holiday season, and I got even more people to come to Five Below with me to get toys, and then I went to Sierra Trading Company to get kids' coats. And at least half a dozen different people came along. One woman couldn't join me, and she gave me $100 bill and said tearfully something about like, this is for mom. I'm like, oh goodness, she lost her mom. And yeah, it's just, you start small, you invite other people, and it gets bigger and bigger. It's in weightlifting, it's called progressive resistance, which I think is just so perfectly applicable here.
It really
Um,
is. So,
Yeah,
so
Gotta
you
build your-
really,
You
yeah.
got to build
So-
your coalition. Got to
Yeah.
build your
And
your
that's my
team.
next step is I'm going to be taking the show on the road. After that Chester rally, I made a couple of really good contacts. I mean, Denise, thank you for speaking. We had somebody from West Point speak who got in touch with me afterwards, and we want to organize. And just to get our bigger groups talking, I know there's a very active, consistent protest in Goshen, New York, in Orange County.
yes.
So I think I'm going to be going out there next weekend. I want to confirm the time. And then join some of our friends across the river in the Cold Spring Garrison area, and just get ourselves talking and assembling the Avengers.
So you
Nice.
actually are a real life hero. You really have.
I cannot
You've
bring
embodied
myself to
that
say
whole.
that.
But from those of us looking on the outside, you have basically embodied the entire Captain America persona, because you are speaking out, you are getting people together, you're motivating people. Everybody was motivated when you walked up, and took the mic. I mean, it was really. And look, you're even activating. I just I made a short of that little speech, and within a couple of days we had like a 1,200 views, I think. So you're getting attention, and it means a lot to people, because just as you pointed out, which was really the point I was going to make, was how, you know, the MAGAverses with the signs and with the merch and with the hats, and that's really done to intimidate the people around us. It is part of that flood the zone mentality that Steve Bannon talks about. Just throwing everything out and to make you feel like make you feel silence, that you can't. And even to take the flag, you pointed out that people feel a little shy about the flag. Let me tell you something, folks who are watching this. Take the flag back, because we're the ones who are acting like the real Americans. We are embodying that First Amendment right to organize and express our grievances. And
What they've
and that's what you're doing. Go ahead, Neil.
what they've done is they've wrapped their racism in the flag and called it
Yeah.
patriotism. And
That's the old quote, right?
Right. And part of the issue comes down to we as the public, right, feel then ashamed to look at the world differently. Right. That and you're right, Denise. That is all intentional. This idea that, we live in the communities, it's to shame your neighbors. It's the idea of belittling your neighbors or putting them in a position where they're going to be retaliated against. Right. Like, I mean, we've had that all the time. We had that in our local community where putting out, when I ran for town supervisor, putting out my political sign meant retaliation against the homeowner that had my sign on the lawn, right? It's the idea of power versus people who don't have power. And, it's hard because you don't know where these people who have power stand and what they're going to do to you if you speak up. We all attended that meeting and it seemed to be nice and friendly and we're all, doing really well. But what happens if it took a different turn, so if you look at New Jersey, and I've been seeing some clips from New Jersey because, they're looking to do one of the warehouses in New Jersey. The town board is different. Their town board was in favor of the facility, the town board that they were looking at in Jersey. Right. And a member of the public got to stand up and people were backing him, but it was a much different conversation than the conversations we're having here in Orange County. Okay. And we have to understand that a lot of what they're spewing on the other side are these platitudes, this rhetoric that just is completely not factually correct. But that's for us to take the bait. Right. That's baiting us. Right. So in other words, they come out with a statement and then we start debating on their terms. Right.
I read something right before we hopped on that said something about the centrist rhetoric in this country has become, if the left does anything wrong, they get blamed.
Yes.
If the right does anything wrong, the left gets blamed for making the right do it. And as I read that, I said, that sounds like the mother married to an abusive man telling the kid, don't act up, don't set your father off, because the kid's not the problem.
Right.
And this could go for any gender dynamic. In families with abuse, there's enabling, there's trying to keep the short-term peace, which does not root out the problem.
Yeah.
But that's been, I've pointed that out on this show a few times, that this racism MAGA movement is also wrapped in misogyny.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, we know that, right? It's the idea of take away women's rights to choose, take away a woman's right to an abortion, take away a woman's right to contraceptive, take away a woman's right to work. It's this gradual reversing of rights for women.
Not to mention vote. Vote is a big one they've been pushing.
Yeah. It's all wrapped in misogyny, and they're doing exactly what you're saying, Cap, it's this mentality of, we're going to put things out there and we're just going to keep pounding it because people will believe us if we keep saying it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. right?
Mhm.
Just because somebody says the same thing over and over and over again still
Doesn't
doesn't
make
make
it
it
true.
true. It doesn't make it
Mhm.
true. And
And
I
I'm
keep
gonna
saying that.
you know what? And based on the polling, I mean, because Trump is woefully underwater, everything they're doing, and we're talking on his top issues. He's like way below with regard to immigration. Obviously, the big one is the economy is just completely flatlined. So that messaging that they're doing, their constant messaging and blaming, it's not really going the way they thought. I mean,
Mhm.
it's always going to be supported by the core base. I mean, the base is just it doesn't matter what they say. They believe everything.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and that's that. But for everybody else, I mean, for everybody else, they're not buying it. The polling is just showing that they're not buying it. The problem is that we probably have a lot of people, a good swath of the population, who have basically just checked out of politics altogether. And so, and it's easy to do that. I just can't take this. But this is one of those moments in history where you have to be engaged because if you
Mhm.
check out, everything just happens because you
Can
didn't
can I
take action.
can I give a quote here?
Yes, go
Certainly.
ahead.
There's an old quote, right? The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference, okay? And when you have indifference, right, the oppressor will always win, okay? And that was stated by Elie Wiesel, right, who was a Holocaust survivor.
Mhm.
Right, and he noted that during the Holocaust, that was one of the reasons why the Nazis were able to do what they did was people were indifferent. People didn't want to stand up. People were very comfortable with their privilege. And we're seeing that in today's society. Absolutely. I think even Cap alluded to that, right? People feel privileged, right? And they feel that they're connected to power. So at the end of the day, they don't want anything to disturb that.
Mhm.
Okay? And people like us, right? We disturb that because of the fact that we draw attention to these issues that are happening to people to our most vulnerable populations. Okay? And if we aren't compassionate enough to stand up for those vulnerable populations, well, who's gonna be around to stand up for us when they're gone?
Mhm.
Because
Like a
it's only a matter of time, right? Like it's only a matter of time. It wasn't, it was once stated, it wasn't the government who rounded people up in Nazi Germany. It was the shoemaker next door. It was
the milkman.
the
Mhm.
the cobble
Sailors and
maker, right? Like it
swineherds.
right. It was the regular people. I mean, you know, and unfortunately, America has now been drawn into two categories, right? It's
Mhm.
it's those who would hide Anne Frank and those who would sell Anne Frank out.
Mhm.
And that to me is just a really sad commentary on America and to be honest, even our neighbors, right? Because even you
Yes.
said that, Cap,
Oh,
too,
very, very
is
intimidating.
this is our local neighborhoods and a lot of people we see who we thought were very compassionate, who were very giving, who were willing to help people in their
Mhm.
community have are really just it's just wrapped in racism, right? Like they have
Yep.
privilege and they really don't want these people in our community.
Or
They
they've
don't
like I
really
said,
want to give.
or they've checked out altogether,
Mhm.
Right.
They don't but people are standing up. I don't wanna seem completely hopeless here. You're Gap, you're a perfect example. I myself, I was never thought I'd be an activist. I mean, even though I had
Mhm.
maybe a activist mentality, maybe because of my legal background, I was always one of those people that, sort of root for the little guy and have that sort of feeling, but I never really put myself out there until this year, really. And I've been to No Kings protests. I went to New York City a couple times.
Mhm.
I've been to DC twice. So we're seeing more activism and
Mhm.
more people getting involved. And I just want to add this: when we look back at the the 60s and the 50s and 60s and the civil rights movement, a lot of people weren't involved because it was racism, right? We were dealing with race. And so those people stood up and fought, but not everybody stood up with them, everybody else. In this fight, we have people everywhere and people who look like me and look like you standing up for all races. And
Mhm.
I think that that really makes a difference. We need more,
Mhm.
but I think we're breaking through. I do, and just to touch on, I want to go into that, but the shooting of Renee Good, that broke through. That
Yes.
broke through. People are not buying the narrative that they're spreading, and I think it's getting people's attention, and we need to capture that attention, and really use that to motivate more people to not have fear, because you are the
Mhm.
representative of that. What you're doing here, it just it says a lot and it means a lot.
So
So
so I've always been an activist, okay? And I say that from the perspective that I grew up with it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Because my mother was an activist, okay? My mother worked at a time, right? Like I want to take people back because I want people to understand, right? Like she was one of the pioneers, okay? Like she was a pioneer. She used to work for Big Oil, okay, as a secretary in the secretary pool. She got a job with one of the executives. She got pregnant. Back in the day, she couldn't work while pregnant, right?
yeah,
Like people think today, like, oh, you work while pregnant and you do. Once they determined that you were pregnant, you got fired from your
got
job,
fired.
right? Like,
Mhm.
right? They had told her that. They had they had said to her, right? Because she was trying to hide her pregnancy. Okay, her boss found her boss found out, and her boss says to her, "Don't tell anybody." Right? Like this is the mentality that you had back then. Don't tell
Mhm.
anybody. They find out, they're gonna fire you, and I need you. Right? Like she was a valuable employee, but that didn't make a difference. Right? They wanted to
Mhm.
fire her. Right? Her going to college didn't, single mom, a married mom didn't go to college back then. Women didn't go to college back then. She went to college. She fought for a woman's right to choose. She couldn't believe when Roe got over it. She said,
Yeah,
I spent my entire young
Mhm.
adult life fighting for women's rights, and now all of a sudden they're going away, and she's like, I can't fight anymore. I'm done. Like this isn't my fight anymore. I'm old. She's 80 years old. She's like, it's like I can't fight anymore. She still shows up,
she
but
still
Mhm.
shows up.
she can't show up. She can't do what she used to do. And now it's on us, right? It's on Cap, it's on Denise, and it's on me to fight these battles.
And none of us can ever do what we used to do because we change all the
Yeah.
time. Our bodies have regenerated all the cells that we are not made from the same material that we were a couple of years ago. Um, but you can always do something. You can always like she shows up. You said if that's all you can do, that's enough.
Right.
There's we were out there in the snow yesterday for 90 minutes, and I saw a
God,
couple. The wife was on a walker, and other people were marveling that she was there. And I said, when we've been out here, we've been lucky with weather. It's been sunny
Yes.
days for most of the whole year that we've been doing this. But in the 88-degree days, that couple would be the first people out there, and that always told me that I don't have any excuse not to show up.
All right.
And seeing, I got there. I say 90 minutes. I was out there for 90 minutes because I got there half an hour early. I wasn't sure how many people were going to show with the weather being as nasty as it was, and the traffic signals weren't working properly. So there were cops manually operating them and guiding traffic, and we brought them some hot coffee. They didn't have gloves
Ah.
out there. Um, and one of the cops said, you folks are very brave to be out here. And I said, well, I could say the same of you, but it was nice getting that support from law enforcement. And I'll say the Clarkstown law enforcement have been very cooperative, very attuned to our safety, very responsive to any concerns we have. So I wanted to give a shout out to them. But I was going somewhere with this. We were talking about the lady with the water. About
happens in podcasts.
people, you can find what you do. You bring what you can. I knew how to play this character because I played it for kids. I knew how to make it feel real for kids, and I never expected it to resonate with adults as much as it does. But it does. If people buy it, then it takes some of the weight off, and you can think about what else you can do when that weight's not on there.
That's great. It's a beautiful sentiment.
Thank you.
It is. I mean, if you think about what Captain America stands for, Captain America doesn't stand like we think of it from the comic book days of it stands for America, but you know, it was redefined through the Marvel movies as being about freedom.
Yes.
Well, I'll say I wanted to talk about this, and I preach this out there as I work my street corner, as I say. There's a direct line between those flagship superheroes and who were all created in the late 1930s in America. Direct line between that and the anti-fascist sentiment. They were all Superman, Batman, Captain America. They were all created by Jewish teenagers, first-generation Americans. And it was about wish fulfillment. The first issue of Captain America showed him decking Adolf Hitler before we were at war with Germany. And they were told, don't do that. Don't upset the apple cart. They got death threats at their office in Manhattan. They weren't even Marvel Comics yet. But yeah, fifth columnist Bundists would wait outside to beat them up. You know, Superman was created by two Jewish teenagers, and he wasn't out there punching Brainiac or fighting Doomsday. He was going after Depression-era tycoons who still managed to be wealthy by building substandard housing to cut corners. So Superman would grab one of these guys, throw him into one of the houses, and do this to the rafters to make a point, and then turn him into the cops. Or, you know, there was a railroad guy who would cut corners on the railroads, and there had been derailments, and Superman tied him to the tracks like you'd think a villain would. Train's coming, and then Superman stops the train. But taking the powerful and putting them in the perspective of the powerless and the oppressed. And that's what those kids wanted to see, and that's what the barely teenagers, barely adults going overseas to fight in World War II, that's how comics became popular, is people would send those in care packages to the boys away from home. So yes, it's all at the root. And growing up, you know, I was raised on those Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and that man is so much of how I turned out the way I did growing up. Like that is the gold standard. And which I'd say for Chris Evans as Captain America, if those had come out when I was a kid. But again, just like really embodying those role models and those values and wanting to give idealism a shot and fight to make it happen. But also the flip side of that is growing up with these stories and watching, you know, Trump campaign in 2015 saying, this sounds a lot like something Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor said.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, I'll actually send you something that I made, an alternate trailer for the Batman Returns film done as a political satire because, one, it's about the Penguin rising to power as this like charismatic demagogue to become mayor of Gotham, propped up by Christopher Walken's character, who is literally based in 1992 on Donald Trump, which the writers have said Christopher Walken wasn't playing it that way. He was basing it off of Meyer Wolfsheim from Great Gatsby, but it was 100%, and it's like that was based on Trump's image then. DeVito's Penguin is Trump's image now. Just this like waddling, disgusting mess. And back to the Future 2.
Completely on point.
Back to the Future 2, when the alternate timeline where he goes back to 1985 and now Biff is married to his mom. What that alternate like power Biff was deliberately based on Donald Trump before I was even born. So I'm like, you guys, we've got supervillains based on this guy. There was a Lex Luthor graphic novel where in 1988 or so, the cover was lampooning The Art of the Deal. The same typeface, just said Luthor, and it was a portrait of him. It's all there. Like, villains have been based on this guy for decades.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it's all so obvious when you know this stuff.
When we talk about America, everybody thinks that like the way it was in the 80s, like is the way it's always been. And what people don't seem to understand is we fought fascism here before. We fought it in the 20s and 30s, right? Like we were becoming a fascist country back then. You know, you had vertical integration, you had Carnegie, you had Rockefeller, you had these guys that were, you know, those were the Peter Thiels, the Ellisons, the, you know, they were those guys of that day, right? And you know, it's interesting that you brought up that he brought up comic books, right? So I'm going to equate what's happening today. Okay, comic books back then were the vehicle, right? And we saw a lot of books too, even The Hobbit and you know, the Lord of the Rings books, right? They were all about the dystopian nature of sort of like the devolving into fascism, right? When country, you know, what we've seen over the last 10 years or more, right, is this writing from young authors, and I'm going to say young authors, right, about dystopian societies, right? Why are young authors drawn to writing about dystopian societies? It's the same reason that comic book writers were writing what they were writing back in the day in what Cap said were the 30s. It's the exact same reason, because they don't feel that there is hope. They don't feel that there is a way for them to break through the ceiling that has been put there, right? And whether that be a monetary ceiling, whether that be, you know, relationship ceiling, whatever ceilings that there are all these barriers, and they feel that it's overwhelming for them to break through these barriers. We saw the Divergent series that came out. We saw
the Hunger Games, which they're actually instituting at the White House.
Right, Hunger Games. You saw that. I mean, you have all these books that were dystopian. Even sort of Harry Potter was like that, right? Like the dystopian Lord
I was
Voldemort.
reading those books during Trump's first term, and this is before I knew about all the transphobia from J.K. Rowling. But I was reading those books for the first time because I was planning a honeymoon where we were going to be going to Universal Studios. So I'm like, I got to bone up on my my literature here. And there gets to a point where they're separating families based on whether they're pureblood wizards and witches or whether they're mudbloods, which is a dirty term in that world. And I'm like, oh wow. So J.K. Rowling was really tuned into like progressive anxieties, and no, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah, you forgot what you were working on, lady.
Yeah. But
it's interesting, right?
Focus...
It's interesting how tone deaf some of these writers actually are, right? Like,
but it's because these narratives are so baked into our narratives are so baked into our collective consciousness, because it is a cycle of progress and backlash that we've lived through generation after generation. And so I'm waiting for the pendulum to swing back towards progress. But when the backlash folks have the nuclear football, it's really keeping me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think people, you know, always look for a hero to kind of come and save the day. And I guess what's really the reality that we're all dealing with is, in fact, we need to be our own heroes. You know, it's great to have, you know, someone who can dress up and help to motivate, but we all have to be the hero here. It's going to take all of us. And history has shown, I don't know if either one of you follow Heather Cox Richardson. She's a well-known historian. And so she does talks every day, and she draws on history and where we've been in the past and applies it to where we are today and how the people reacted. And in every case, it takes there has to be a groundswell and of just regular people standing up, unifying, and speaking out, and that's happening. I do see it happening. It's going slower than I think either any of us want, but I think I think it's happening, and I think more and more people are standing up. I mean, look at what Minnesota is dealing with, and
I wanted
they
to call
out.
attention to that.
Yes, go ahead, please speak. Tell
I
us.
wanted to speak because I've been reading some very good reporting from Slate magazine about what's going on out there, and I want everybody who is afraid of ice coming, especially to the Hudson Valley, but if you're worried about ice coming to your area, read how the people of Minneapolis are dealing with it and how they're coordinating with each other and building a resistance. There are networks on signal groups where they call themselves carpools or commuters, and their commuting is going on ice patrols. And they'll have scheduled time slots because everyone's got jobs that they have to juggle this with. And you ride with a partner, at least one, so that somebody can be on comm, somebody can record anything that's going on. They know what to look for ice vehicles, out of state license plates, tinted glass, like illegally opaque tinted windows, erratic driving, running stop signs and red lights, uh, hanging
Law
out in
enforcement.
alleys. I mean, like we have to be told to watch out for creeps hanging out in alleys. And if they spot these vehicles, which they do often enough, the way things are going out there, you lay on the horn, not so much to affect ice, but to let the neighbors know. One modification to that, in case people think it's just a traffic thing, honk the SOS. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. Over and over and over again. We've invested in some high-powered whistles, rescue me whistles, to bring out in case we see anything. If anyone starts causing trouble, but just to have them ready and look at the game plan, the model that the citizens of Minneapolis are building for how to protect their neighbors.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to check in with the two of you because I went back out to Chester yesterday because I woke up to the news that it sounds like plans to take over Pep Boys are advancing. And there was going to
Yes.
be another rally on Lareau Road. I was out there in the snow. I grabbed a quick bite to eat with some of my organizer friends. I hit the road to Chester luckily as the snow was stopping, so the roads weren't too bad. And I pulled into the Chester Police Department with a big electronic road sign saying, January 17th rally postponed. And I went
Yes.
inside and I asked, and there was no rain date at the time. They said they knew it wouldn't be during Dr. King weekend because some member of local government was going to be there and won't be there as of tomorrow.
Right.
So I don't know when that rally is. I don't know if
I'm
we'll
following I'm
reschedule it in
following the
time.
group that's
Mm-hmm.
doing that. It's a local group, and I will, Neil and I will check that. I will post updates on the Tao Talk podcast Facebook
Mm-hmm.
page, as well as, Orange County Democrats. I'll send that out to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you can post it in your community, whatever
Thank you.
social platforms that you have.
Yeah.
But they will be updating that. I'm pretty sure they'll update that in the next day or so. Hopefully not this coming
Thank you.
Saturday because I have an appointment that I have to go to.
Well,
Um,
they need Pat Ryan. Pat Ryan is the one organizing it and doing it. He's the politician that you talked about.
Yeah,
so
I
it's just a
didn't know
matter
if
when
I
he's
didn't want to
available.
blow his cover if he was trying to keep that as a surprise. But yes,
No,
yeah,
he's been advertising about it. It was Congressman Pat Ryan, who represents our district. He's been very vocal against the facility coming into our area. There are so many reasons that it becomes problematic for the local community. But again, they're not looking for the best location, right? They're looking to reward a wealthy benefactor.
yeah,
yes. Yep.
I mean, like you look at everything that they do, everything is about, okay, how can we give public taxpayer money to our wealthy donors? I
mm-hmm.
mean, that's what everything comes down to, and sort of that seems to be what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah. But
You
it's an
know,
automotive warehouse, right? Abandoned.
Yes, the Pet
it's the
Boys.
old
Yeah.
Pep Boys
Yeah.
warehouse, yeah, the
It'd
old Pep
be
Boys
it'd be
warehouse.
just awful if they get in there and the floor is covered with thousands and thousands of ball bearings, right? That would make the
That
location
that it
undesirable and really hard to.
it's actually so, like, a lot of people just don't know. I mean, the village, right, is on basically county sewer system. is on a county sewer system. Okay. You know, or a consortium sewer system, whatever. But the county is essentially what constructed it and managed it. And it serves that entire region. Like it serves everything in Monroe, Chester, like
Wow.
there is no capacity, right? Like, I mean, you have to remember, like, you have a facility that can take in a certain amount of raw sewage, right? That it has to process. I mean, people think like you could just put shit anywhere. And, you know, the reason why you have local zoning codes and local laws, right, regarding building and construction is because your municipality has to be able to serve it in some form,
Exactly.
fashion, or another, right? You know, it's going to be a complete nightmare. It's going to be, you know, you think about you're going to increase sewer capacity, you're going to increase water capacity. The village and you know, the village and the county can't handle the water and the sewer, the extra water and sewer,
Yeah.
and that'll affect local residents. That it'll cost them more money because they're going to have to upgrade. They're going to have to find a way to upgrade their system. You know, they're currently doing a build out for the commons for sewer, and this will only then add to what you have, and there's no end date. You
And
know, I mean,
just to give people let me
could be going
stop
on
you
for
and ask.
years.
Oh, this is why I want to ask you a question. What is the capacity, the number of people they're thinking they can house? I heard a number. I think it was like up to 18,000 or something.
No, that facility, from what I understand, can only handle a max of 1,500 people, from what I
Okay, okay.
understand.
Maybe it's
But
1,800 is what I heard, not 18,000.
again, it's it's a warehouse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no segregation of women, no segregation of men. I mean, I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to put rooms? How are they going to add the bathrooms? Are they going to even have bathrooms? We see facilities, you know, where there's no bathroom, there's no water, you know, you have people drinking out of toilets. I mean, there are facilities across the United States where people are being treated so inhumanely. And, you know, these MAGA people are like, "Oh, I don't care." You know, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. Like, they have this idea that everybody, you know, and then when something happens to them, they're the first ones to complain about the
Oh, yeah.
punishment system,
The
right? When
Panthers
something
eating their
happens to
face. They
them.
didn't think
The
they'd eat my
Panther.
face.
They're the first ones to complain anytime that system that they want affects them, because they believe that they're so privileged that the rules that they put in place shouldn't apply to them.
They
You
want
know?
simple, pragmatic, top-down solutions to complex human problems.
Right.
And it just doesn't work out. It's not sustainable.
Like,
Um,
I hear
yeah.
constantly, and I'm not picking on law enforcement here, right? Because I know, you know, listen, I appreciate law enforcement. I'm glad that we have them in our community, but we have laws and we have rules, and everybody has to be subject to them. Okay,
Yes.
you know, we see, you know, officers, they get pulled over for DUIs. It happens, right? You know, they go out drinking, right? But they don't get tickets. They don't get tickets,
Well,
right?
that's
Like,
not
you
who those
think
laws are for.
that's
Yeah.
not right.
Yeah, that's
That's not
ours.
who, and that's exactly it, Cap. That's not who those laws are for. They go, they drive drunk. All right, it's a call to their supervisor, right, at their barracks, and then next thing you know, they get disciplined internally, right? But that never, you know, and it just sets up the idea that the rules are different depending on where you're employed and what privilege you have.
Yeah.
Okay,
And what
and
color you're
and
flashing up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
How pale you
and
are.
it has, you know, like that. I'm just, it's just enough's enough. Enough's enough.
Yeah.
We, you know, you have laws, you either follow the laws or you don't follow the laws. And right now we've decided that we're a country where laws don't have to be followed. And that's a scary moment in time, because, you know, what worries me is, you know, the right has been running around talking about Second Amendment solutions for decades now, right? We've heard the NRA talking about it, right? What's scary is this is going to happen. You know,
Yes.
and it's not a threat. It's not me being, again, hyperbolic. It, it it's when you push and you push so hard on people that they break. Okay,
Mhm.
something's gonna happen, and they are pushing on those people in Minnesota like you wouldn't believe. They pushed on those people in Oregon. They pushed on those people in Chicago. Right? They keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
And I'll say that for all of the analogies we're making between our present moment and Nazi Germany and Gestapo tactics, I saw a great piece by a woman saying these are not Gestapo tactics; these are slave catcher tactics,
Yes,
which
yes, I
inspired the
pointed that out
Gestapo.
here.
And I had a very good history professor talk about how the people who lost the Civil War, the Confederacy, are the only Americans who have lost a war on their home turf.
Mm.
And they never let go of that resentment. And
Yes.
this is the long game. This is the end game of I think there's the South driving those messages, appealing to the sensibilities of Christians, evangelical Christians, and tying in their evil stuff with this is the nation that God wants. To which I say, get a better God.
Yeah.
So it
I
is,
think I've
and people don't
yeah.
like making the slave parallel because that's us. It's scary and easy to say, like, oh, Trump is doing what those bad guys in the World War II movies did. It's just like, no, it's what we did.
Yeah.
We've also did it. We've
That's the
got blood on our
reality.
hands.
Have
That's
I not pointed that out on the show numerous times?
You did.
That
You
Mhm.
did. And it's
I've
being
pointed it
pointed
out.
out elsewhere.
Right.
Elsewhere.
I've said that ICE is the equivalent of KKK, right?
Mhm.
I've said that they're coming into your communities, en mass, but it's really just white hoods and burning crosses.
Mhm.
Like I've stated that numerous times. I mean, it's absolutely, it's 100% going back to the slaves, going back to the Civil War, going back to Civil War Reconstruction. I mean,
Mhm.
this is what it is. I mean, we have a history of this, without a
Mhm.
Yeah.
doubt. Cap is right on.
Where do you think the
Oh,
Nazis got the ideas from?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. We were the
All
ones
all
that were
that
going door
eugenics
to door.
rhetoric.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's all on us. That's all on
Oh,
us.
we've exported that stuff. We exported it to Chile. We've
Mhm.
exported it to Germany. We've exported it to the Philippines not that long ago. I mean, the Philippines just sort of went through this cycle, right? Like a lot of people don't know what happened in the Philippines, but when Durante took charge of the Philippines, he was being advised by America.
Mhm.
Those were American consultants out there advising Durante in the Philippines. His anti-gay, his whatever, like his killings, everything was about that. And now where is he? He's in The Hague. He got charged with war crimes, and now he's at The Hague, right?
Mhm.
And where are the Philippines? Well, the Philippines are trying to pick up the pieces of fascism, right? I mean, Durante took them so far into fascism that now they're just sort of stagnant.
Yeah.
That's where they are.
Mhm.
They're not like back to where they were with their freedoms, but they're not moving forward either. They're just
Mhm.
sort of where they are, because it's once I go to this, right? Once people's freedoms get taken away, they are not going to be given back.
Yeah.
Okay?
Think about that,
Right?
folks.
What we saw out in Minnesota, just with the good thing, right? It was a violation of
Mhm.
First, Fourth, Fifth, Seventh, and 14th Amendments, right? We've seen absolutely no consequences for those violations, which means, and now what we're seeing is okay, well, they got away with it once. Now we're seeing perpetuation of those violations. We're continuing to see that. These rights are now being taken away from us. They're not going to just be given back to us. You elect Democrats in November, right? It's not going to be given back to us. It's not like the Democrats are going to come in and say, okay, we're going to give all these rights back to you, right? They have to be taken.
Mhm.
We have to stand up and we have to demand that we get these rights back. And
Mhm.
that's the way this country has always been.
We're
Always.
the fourth branch of government.
Yes.
Yes.
And the only one with its head and its heart screwed on in the right places.
Yeah. So, well, you're right there fighting the fight. You're out front. I gotta say, really great having you on. This has been a great conversation. I hope people
And
who
I loved
who
you in The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? On that note, have you seen the thing going around social media where the Disney Twitter account said,
Yes,
"What's your
I saw
favorite
that, yeah.
Disney quote?" And people just started throwing out all of the anti-fascist quotes from any Disney movie they could think of, and Disney took the post down.
Yes.
Well, I
Wow.
sent Disney a personally recorded monologue from a movie that they own, the very one that you called out, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
See if I can still get it off the
do
top
that
of
for
my
us.
head. The names are different, but you could probably substitute them like a Mad Libs page. Attention all S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. This is Steve Rogers. You've heard a lot about me these last few days. Some of you were even ordered to hunt me down. But I think it's time to tell the truth. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not what we thought it was. They've been taken over by Hydra. Alexander Pierce is their leader. The Strike and Insight crews are Hydra as well. I don't know how many more, but I know they're in the building. They could be standing next to you right now. And they almost have what they want. Absolute control. They shot Nick Fury, and it won't end there. If you launch those helicarriers today, Hydra will be able to kill anyone that stands in their way, unless we stop them. I know I'm asking a lot, but the price of freedom is high. It always has been. And it's a price I'm willing to pay. And if I'm the only one, then so be it. But I'm willing to bet I'm not. That's my favorite Disney quote today.
That is fantastic. Oh my God, that was great.
Yes. Yes. Bravo.
Folks.
Bravo. That's awesome.
Well,
Love
Captain America,
Thank
guys.
you. Captain
Thank
America.
you,
I
thank
think
you.
we should
I
end
want
it
you
there.
guys to get
Captain
home from
America.
the studio and safe and warm. I know the weather's probably worse up there than it is here.
We
I
actually
really
are
appreciate
home
it.
from the studio.
Oh, you
We
are?
really-
Oh, okay.
We
Good.
actually we don't have a studio. We're in our own homes. We connect the same way you're connected to us right now.
Okay.
That's how
Gotcha.
that, you know. But we should think about a studio, but that's a separate conversation. But thank you so much, folks. This is Captain America. You could see him in Nanuet, and now it looks like he's going to be coming to Goshen and coming out for protests here in our area. Please, if you have any comments, comment below. And by the way, before we go, if people want to reach out, or is there a way that they can follow you on social media?
Yes, I have a fledgling social media account. Like Captain America, I'm about 70 years older than I appear, so I'm not that active on it, but I'm trying to push it more. One word, Captain Action Cosplay on Instagram.
Okay.
Captain
all
Action
lowercase. Cosplay.
Yes.
Okay.
Captain Action is a reference to anybody who grew up in the 60s that had the Ideal Toys Captain Action doll before they made lines of Batman toys, lines of Superman toys. They made a G.I. Joe type superhero, and you could buy outfits. Like, his power was turning into other superheroes. So that's how you got your Batman toy. So I've gone out there as Batman. Once I shed some of this holiday weight, I want to get out there as Superman, but that spandex doesn't leave anything to the imagination. So I really got to trim off the extra pounds. But yeah, it's being the hero for the occasion that people need. Not to call myself a hero, because anytime I get and you've been very gracious, both of you, with throwing that term around. But when people throw that at me when I'm out there, I say, we're doing the same thing. I said, you're the team. I'm the cheerleader. Like, we're doing the same thing. I'm
Good
just in a
point.
colorful outfit. And especially when the organizers, like, who do all the work of getting us there and are coordinating with people and with other organizations, I'm just like, you do, like, I'm just wearing something noticeable to make a point. But I get a lot of credit because I'm a straight passing white guy, I guess. So, but that is to say that it's undue credit. I really get far more than my fair share of credit for being out there. And again, I should have been doing this long ago. So,
Well, you're here for the moment now, and we really appreciate it. So,
Thank you, Cap.
thank you again. Okay, folks. So there you have it. Captain Action Cosplay on Instagram. And please, folks, remember to like, share, and subscribe. It's really important to subscribe because the algorithm doesn't really like political content, and they kind of push it down. So if you're subscribed, you'll be able to keep up with what we're doing here and keep up with Captain America here. Maybe we'll have him back. Would love to have you back, actually.
I would love to be here.
Yeah, I think we need to make a segment for him because this is great. Anyway, we appreciate you. Stay safe and stay vocal. We love you guys. Take care.
Peace out.